You're heading home and you glide past a stop sign just a touch too quickly. Blue lights flood your rearview mirror. You ease over to the shoulder, both palms planted firmly on the steering wheel, and the officer approaches your window, grabs your license, then his gaze falls to your hip. His voice shifts noticeably and he says, "Do me a solid, pass me your firearm." 4 words. And what you choose to do in the next 5 seconds determines whether this remains a simple 10-minute traffic stop or becomes you face down on the pavement in handcuffs facing a charge you never anticipated. Because that command is not the innocent request it appears to be. It seems like nearly everyone gets it wrong, and most never recognize the trap was laid before the officer ever spoke a word. I'm going to explain why. "Pass me your firearm" ranks among the riskiest phrases an officer can utter to an armed motorist. I'm going to hand you the precise response, word for word, supported by actual Supreme Court precedent. And stick with me to the finish, because even if you nail the perfect reply, there are 2 secondary traps lying in wait, and one shifts based entirely on which state you're currently standing in. Before we dive in, understand there are 2 paths these encounters take south. You volunteer something you never needed to, and it winds up in a file bearing your name. Or you attempt to assert yourself, and it escalates into something physical. Okay, let's jump right in. Here is the foundational concept you must grasp first. When that officer utters, "Pass me your firearm," he isn't being careless and he isn't being relaxed. He is executing a protocol he was drilled to execute. From the instant he spotted your permit or noticed the outline beneath your jacket, his mindset switched into an alternate gear. He doesn't know you personally. He doesn't know if you're the most harmless individual he'll encounter all year, or the one who will injure him. So he delivers the one statement that compels you to expose yourself: "Pass me your firearm." Observe what that instruction genuinely accomplishes. It prompts you to move your hands toward a loaded weapon, while an anxious officer stands 2 feet away with his own palm already settled on his holster. Consider that for a brief moment. The single most perilous action you could execute during a traffic stop is reaching for a weapon, and he just requested precisely that. Whether intentional or not, he has presented you with an exam, and the incorrect response can be absolutely deadly. Let's examine the paths most individuals take, because each one triggers a separate mechanism of the trap. Path number 1. You aim to be cooperative, so you reply, "Absolutely, officer," and you reach down toward your holster to extract the weapon and hand it across. That impulse, that well-meaning cooperative impulse, is the one that gets lawful gun owners shot. To the officer, a hand plunging toward a waistband is not cooperation. It is a threat materializing in real time before his eyes. He cannot peer into your thoughts. He can only interpret your hands. Path number 2, you swing the opposite direction. You grow offended, and you declare, "You cannot seize my weapon. I'm entirely within my rights." I get the sentiment completely, but contesting your rights on the shoulder of the highway is like disputing balls and strikes with the umpire. You will not prevail, and you might get tossed out. You don't safeguard your rights on the roadside. You safeguard them afterward in a courtroom with an attorney standing beside you. Or, option 3, you lock up completely. You say nothing, and you pray he moves on to something else. But across numerous states, silence constitutes its own infraction, and a firearm the officer uncovers on his own, rather than one you revealed, transforms a routine stop into a felony probe in roughly 2 seconds flat. Now, allow me to demonstrate why the odds are stacked against you. Because this is where the reality sets in hard. Back in 1968 in Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme Court determined that an officer who reasonably suspects you are armed and dangerous can pat you down for weapons without a warrant and without probable cause necessary. Then in 1977 in Pennsylvania versus Mims, the court expanded further and ruled that during any lawful traffic stop, an officer can command you out of your vehicle for no reason beyond the stop itself. And in 1983 in Michigan versus Long, the court extended all of that into the automobile, determining that police can inspect the passenger compartment for weapons if they reasonably suspect you are dangerous and might access one. Combine those 3 rulings, and here is the obstacle you face. The officer almost certainly possesses the authority to secure your firearm for the duration of that stop. That is the reality the legal system grants him, which means battling him over whether he gets to hold your weapon is a conflict you have already surrendered before it even begins. The genuine battle, the one you can actually prevail in, concerns how that firearm departs your hands and what he is permitted to do subsequently. And here is where geography becomes the dividing line. Approximately a dozen states, plus Washington, D.C., maintain what are known as duty to inform statutes. In those states, you are legally obligated to inform the officer you are armed, typically the instant he approaches before he even inquires. Michigan, Texas, North Carolina, and Louisiana all appear on that roster. Most remaining states only obligate you to speak up if the officer asks you directly, and a few demand nothing from you whatsoever. So, the identical silence that is completely lawful in one state becomes a criminal act one state border away. You must know which category of state you're traveling through before you ever glimpse those blue lights. Now, I guaranteed you a hidden gem, and this is one that even plenty of lawyers overlook. You might assume a valid permit shields you from being disarmed entirely. Whether it does hinges completely on which federal circuit you reside in. In 2017, the Fourth Circuit, which governs Virginia, the Carolinas, and West Virginia, issued a ruling in a case titled United States versus Robinson. It held that if an officer lawfully stops you and reasonably suspects you are armed, he can frisk and disarm you, even if you are 100% legitimate. In that jurisdiction, armed is treated as dangerous. Yet 2 years prior, in 2015, the Sixth Circuit, which governs Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Tennessee, issued Northrop versus City of Toledo and arrived at nearly the inverse conclusion. It held that lawfully possessing a firearm by itself does not render you dangerous, and an officer requires actual evidence of a crime or a legitimate threat before he detains and disarms a law-abiding individual. Same nation, same constitution. Two radically different answers regarding your rights determined by nothing more than which side of a state boundary you happen to occupy. You cannot debate your way past that at the window. It is simply the territory you're standing on, and it is precisely why what you utter next carries such tremendous weight. So here are the precise words. Commit them to memory, because in the heat of the moment, your mind will not craft fresh dialogue. The instant that officer's focus lands on your weapon, before he even completes his sentence, you state, "Steady and calm, officer, I'm permitted to carry. It's on my right hip. My hands are on the wheel and they aren't moving. Tell me how you'd like to proceed. Deliver it slowly and steadily, and then remain completely motionless. Now, allow me to dissect why every component of that performs a specific function. I'm permitted to carry." That single sentence signals to him, you are legitimate, you are not a suspect, and in a duty to inform state, it fulfills your legal duty in one utterance. It's on my right hip. You are furnishing him the location, so nothing catches him off guard. And notice that you are stating where it sits, not yelling, "I possess a gun." If his partner is positioned on the passenger flank, all that partner catches is the word gun, and that is how benign stops deteriorate fast. State the location. Omit the theatrics. "My hands are on the wheel and they aren't moving." This is the sentence that preserves your life. You are informing him aloud that you will not reach for the weapon. You are declining to walk through path number one, regardless of what he requests. Even if he says simply grab it and pass it over, you still do not reach. "Tell me how you'd like to proceed." You are returning the Nkortfis him, which the law already assigned him anyway. Now he leads, and you obey every lawful direction to the letter. So what occurs when he presses further? Because he might insist, just reach down and hand it to me. Now, I recognize what you're thinking. You're asking Michael, he just instructed me to grab it. Won't refusing make this escalate? No. You respond to him steady and unambiguous. "Officer, I don't believe it's safe for me to draw while I'm seated. I'd prefer stepping out so we can handle this however you prefer." You are not defying him. You are refusing to execute the one motion that gets individuals killed, and you are proposing a safer alternative instead. Most officers will accept it. If he commands you out of the vehicle, exit. That is the MIMS rule, and it belongs to him to invoke, calmly without a syllable of protest. But here arrives the second follow-up trap, the one that snares individuals immediately after they believe they're safe. Once he holds your firearm in his grip, he may remark, "Since you're armed, I'm going to inspect the vehicle." That is the instant you reply evenly, "I do not consent to any searches." Your weapon being secured does not unlock your entire automobile. Michigan versus Long permits him to inspect where a weapon could be if he genuinely suspects one, but it is not a free pass to rummage through everything you own hunting for something else. You will not physically obstruct him. You utter the words clearly one time so the camera records it, and you allow your attorney to prevail later. Because this moment was never about whether your weapon is lawful. It's about whether you appear safe in the next 5 seconds. The officer is not evaluating your permit. He is evaluating your hands. Offer him composed words, motionless hands, and zero shocks, and you transform the most hazardous 4 words he can utter into the most unremarkable stop of his entire shift. That is the entire strategy. If this proved useful, YouTube also believes you're going to want the video on your display right now. So, go ahead and select it. And if you want to maintain your rights this sharp every single week, subscribe before you